is that what we really sort of end up getting is just we get a bunch of different encounters, and one encounter can be difficult for one raid based upon group composition or just the players and their own skills, and that could be super hard, but another like encounter is super easy, and you go to another raid and that's completely flipped. So, you know, I wouldn't say, you know, okay, yes, the boat was easy for everyone, but that's, you know, we were okay with that. The boat was kind of this cool like event thing, and you know, that was fine. Yeah.
With the flexible raid lockout, why isn't Pugs gonna stay? I mean, why wouldn't Pugs break apart easier? If you are in a Pug and you fail once or twice, people are gonna start splitting off really quick. Is there anything that's gonna prevent that? I mean, with them being able to come into another group at any time?
I think that's something that players are, I mean, we know that there's going to be some psychology there, but that's going to play out over time. Obviously, initially, that's going to be rough because not everyone's going to know the encounters. But if you look at the state of Lich King now, right, where most people, we've got the weekly raids, the weekly raid quests, so many people know so many more of the encounters. I think obviously up front in Cataclysm, it's going to be a little rough. But I think as time goes by and players learn more of the encounters, you're actually going to see a much better Pug experience than you're seeing now.
Yeah, I think you will. I mean, again, reality is sometimes you run across a bad Pug.
Yeah.
Happens to us all. But when it does, the nice thing about like the new system is that you're not hosed for the entire week, right? Now, sometimes you'll find really great Pugs and you'll be like, oh, this is amazing. Just don't break up, don't break up, don't break up, don't break up, don't break up. We got to get this loot. But you know, with you saying that like, hey, it's easier to break up, it's also easier to get new people.
Yeah.
Right? There's the flip side to it as well. Like, it's much more easier to find people that, hey, I had some time this week and haven't raided, and I know what I'm doing, and I'll be an asset to this Pug. So it works both ways there, and I think overall it ended up being a net positive.
There's two sides to the coin on that for sure.
Yeah.
My question is about legendary weapons. With 10 and 25 man lockouts being combined in Cataclysm, are there any plans to go back to Ulduar and Icecrown Citadel with regards to Shadowmourne and Valinir in terms of how they drop in? They only drop in 25 man right now. Are there any plans to go back and make them drop in 10s for 10 man guilds that can't make it in 25s?
So you're asking, are we going to go back and change the way the Shadowmourne fragments drop and all the other, like, just, are we going to correct the way those change? That's a good point. That's something I'll have to bring up when we get back in the office on Monday. I don't know the answer to that offhand, so I don't really want to say something that's incorrect to you, but I don't see why we wouldn't.
Yeah, it's a great suggestion. I mean, for sure.
Hey, so in the Clism, are you changing BRD as well? Like when you were talking about the classic dungeons? That's like the worst example of, what, 50 bosses?
So, right, yeah, BRD.
Glad you asked.
So I've done a pass through most of all the old dungeons and done what I've called is trimming a lot of the suck. Things like 20-second sleeps and 10-second disarms and, you know, things that were just really, really obnoxious. Unfortunately, breaking up BRD is really super tricky because it's so actually tightly integrated. There's no like clean places to make a break from a geometry standpoint on the art side. So what I did do is put in some teleporters.
So it's similar to like what you see in Ulduar, right? You beat this boss and you get access to this teleporter.
Yeah, there's a teleporter at the entrance. There's a teleporter past the bar. There's a teleporter that's over in the city somewhere. I forget exactly where.
You're actually going to see some of that in the Cataclysm dungeons too. There's a few teleporters.
Yeah, I mean we've added teleporters to Shadowfang. If you die on the last boss in Shadowfang, that's a horrible run. Yeah. So we added teleporters there, teleporters to Dead Mines. We actually gone through, you'll see in like the next, if you haven't seen it already, you'll see in the next beta iteration that we've added to a lot of Cataclysm ones as well. Basically, and something else that we've done that we haven't really talked about is the graveyards are super close now. Yeah. We actually recently went back and said, like,
there's no graveyard further than 30 seconds away, I think, from any dungeon entrance. So
in a lot of cases, we put the graveyard for a dungeon right outside the portal.
Yeah.
Right, because when we started, we're like, hey, Dead Mines is awesome now. It's really, really cool. I died. Wait, how do I get back?
Yeah.
Whoops.
There's nothing really fun about that dead run back.
No. I get lost trying to get through the micro in front of the Dead Mines portals. It's so, yeah, we're moving the graveyards, everything. We want you playing the game, doing the encounters, not running so much.
Hi. Okay, as a raid leader, a lot of times, or even just as a pug goer, or just as a raider in general, a lot of times people want to join raids, or for instance, like say for instance a raid fills up way too fast, and you're like, oh man, I really just at least want to check this out and like be involved with my either the guild or the pug. So have you guys ever considered a maybe raid observation / queue system? So say for instance you had like 30 people or 31 people, and the rest of the people above the 25 cap, for instance, in this case, would be able to stay with like the main tank or some object, so they couldn't fly ahead or check out the other area, like spectating in Counter-Strike or something. But and then as soon as say one person drops, the next main tank in line on that queue would be popped right in there. So then that way you wouldn't have to like summon them or deal anything. They could just be right included in the raid, watching all the fights, learning it with the rest of the guild, and being involved with the guild or the pug for the whole process.
It sounds like a cool, we don't have that planned currently, but it sounds like a cool idea. I think something that comes up a lot of times is people want to see sort of like the looking for dungeon system, but for raids. Also for a way that you can get someone in, like you lose somebody and you can get someone in again real quick. It's just, that's a very difficult thing to do from the design end, just because raid encounters are a whole different beast than dungeon encounters, so it's kind of hard just to throw someone right into it and try to have them not have a bad experience because they might have never done that. And then you think about the other 24 people and they're like, where did this tank come from? You just queued in out of nowhere. So it's definitely something that we've talked about a number of times. I just don't think we have a great solution for that yet.
Yeah, but observation mode would be a really cool thing.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That's a pretty huge feature, and we'll have to see. We'll talk about that more and find out when it looks like we could do something like that.
Hi. So I'm concerned about encounter mechanics, particularly in terms of like more hard stuff. Like I'm a heroic raider kind of stuff. So I'm concerned about more like 5-mans and heroics and raids and such. In terms of mechanics, I'm really interested in like really cool mechanics. Things like the kind of cool stuff in some of the raids. My main concern is in terms of that there's this sort of like the binary kind of thing where certain mechanics are either the kind of big flashy thing that you just cannot ignore and it kills you instantaneously, or on the other side it's something that's really subtle or something that isn't necessarily very obvious, but it won't kill you immediately. It'll just kill you if you're an idiot and you don't move out of the fire. So my concern is more like, is there any middle ground there? A lot of the times it's the kind of thing where it's just either you're stupid or you weren't paying attention. That kind of an idea.
Yeah, we talk about that quite a lot,
Constantly.
and it's actually a pretty nasty design problem. Especially if you're, let's say the tank and healers, they know they've got a whole lot of things on their plate, but let's say you're a DPS player and you don't get out of the fire. If it kills you, you understood what happened. You didn't get out of the fire. If you're just taking like a little bit of damage, you probably blame the healer. That's just the way it sort of works out. So we're actually really like thinking like how to communicate properly to DPS and the healers and tanks as well. Like, hey, this is why you're dying. It's not just because, oh, the healer ran out of mana. It's because the healer ran out of mana because they had to heal this person and this person.